Okay, for our rapid reading, I want you to keep something in mind. When you're going to read back on the job, you are required to read back without any particular inflection. You can't act surprised. You can't you have to be very impartial, so you have to kind of read it in monotone without any favoritism or whatever. You can't repeat, an expression. Somebody said, oh, you're not going to read that back when you read back. But what you do need to do is you need to read back for everyone. So you need to read out loud. And when you do that, you're going to be doing it with confidence. And with this weekly practice at reading your notes, you're going to find yourself in a position of gaining confidence in what you're doing and what you will be required to do later on. So I want you to give it your best shot today. There's no timing, but next week I'll explain, I'll give you next week's assignment, and you can prepare your notes accordingly using the same method, okay? So let's just see how you do. As I said on your instructions, no effort, no result. So you want to go ahead and start first? Yeah. Okay, so you got to read back so we all can hear. Pretend you're in a room full of jury people and there's an audience.
And the camera.
Yeah, and the camera.
Online students.
Yeah, okay, right.
Ladies and gentlemen, the year under review, although yielding results that do not quite come up to those of the preceding ones must, I think, be considered of an entirely satisfactory nature. We have had, as in usual in a business such as ours, our anxieties and troubles, but we have managed to overcome these, and the result of our efforts is placed in your hands today. I spoke at our last meeting of the extraordinary slumps in wool prices and the consequent dislocation of our final
I won't tell you. You need to read on. You're going to guess the word to figure out from your notes. Think about the topic, because that's what you're supposed to do first, is read the story. Okay, financial.
Oh, financial. Well, the
Financial machinery, period.
Oh, machinery, that's what
There you go, okay.
Sorry. Well, the year we have been spared all that. Wool has sold well on the whole and at payable prices to the growers, and I hope that this state of affairs will
Continue.
just put although I am
Yeah, it will continue, comma, although.
Continue. Although I am loath to assume the role of prophet, there are people who consider that there are several, yes, I can start that, adverse factors that may
militate
against us. Exchange rates to have shown no fluctuation,
Fluctuations.
something like that. So that the disabilities under which we have labored during the past few years have now
Disappeared.
disappeared to the advantage of the United States trade generally. You will recall I previously mentioned we were considering various methods of
Increased.
Oh no, I kind of misstroke the next one. Just put KPT,
Capital.
comma, but no further steps have been taken.
Okay, that was a good effort, and I think it's gonna give you, yeah, it's gonna give you an idea what you can do. Okay, because you started off, you were on a roll there at the beginning, and then you kind of got stumbled. But that's because if you look at the instructions that I gave you, I want you to read through the passage first, just so you get a sense of what the topic is, because you're going to be following along in your work. I mean, you're not going to be there like, you know, an empty egg, you know. Yeah, you're going to be there following along. You're going to have a sense of the topic. You're going to know that what they're talking about, whether, you know, some ship has sunk or someone was in an accident. You're going to follow. So it's important that you get a sense of the topic. Just read through it, and then choose your outlines, and then practice those outlines that you want to incorporate or that you might find difficult stroking. Then copy the passage just once, unless you don't do it properly, but you want to get perfect notes. In other words, you don't want to have fingering errors, you don't want to have misstrokes, you don't want to have corrections. You want just one, it's only 200 words. So just do it very slowly. Just do it a sentence at a time. Keep going through the passage, get it down so that you've got excellent notes, because they're your notes. Okay, I'm not going to tell you how to write something, whatever is comfortable for you. So if you want to stroke out something and not use some of the suggested outlines, that's perfectly fine. As long as you have good, clean notes with no markings or nothing. Okay? And so I think that given how you started, I can see how you're going to be able to manage this. Next week you're going to do it a lot better. I think it's really good. Chelsea, your turn. I know, Chelsea, you started at Ladies and Gentlemen. Some of you missed the bottom of the page there, beginning, but that's okay. Chelsea, you want to go ahead? Okay, now remember, you're reading loud to a whole courtroom.
Ladies and gentlemen, the year under review, although yielding results that do not quite come up to those of the preceding one, must, I think, be considered of an entirely satisfactory nature. We have had, as is usual in a business such as ours, our anxieties and troubles, but we have managed to overcome these, and the result of our efforts is placed in your hands today. I spoke at our last meeting of the extraordinary.
That's what I said.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Of the extraordinary slump in wool prices and the consequent dislocation of our financial machine. Well, this year we have been spared all that. Wool has sold on the whole and at payable prices to grow efforts will continue. Although I am loath to assume the role of prophet, there are people who consider that there are several adverse factors that may militate against us. Exchange rates, too, have shown no wild fluctuation, so that the disabilities under which we have labored during the past now
Think of the sense.
past few years have now disappeared to the advantage of the United States trade generally. You will recall I previously mentioned we're considering various methods of increased capital, but no further steps have been taken.
Good. Okay. You can see how if you do the practice every day and you chart it, you're going to be able to read it fine. Okay, you got to grab that sense. I know it's a challenge for you, for all of you, because you haven't been not used to reading your notes this way. So that's why I think that today, just give it your best shot, and then now you'll know next week, you know, what to expect, and you can prepare accordingly. I'm not expecting you to read, you know, roll it off your tongue. That's pretty demanding, and I think, you know, as long as you give it an attempt every day. If you only do it like 4 or 5 times at a sitting, the longest part is just getting it down first. That might take you a half an hour by the time you enter your dictionary outlines and you just, you know, copy it. That's the slow part. After that, it's just a practice 4 or 5 times every day, and that doesn't take long. It might take you 15 minutes, and you're done. And even if you haven't achieved something that you wanted to, as long as you've tried every day, you'll see the progress. Okay? You ready to start? Okay, remember, you're in a courtroom.
Ladies and gentlemen,
We can't hear you.
sorry.
Why don't you just sit over there? Okay. And you can let us all hear you. Okay?
Ladies and gentlemen, the year under review, although yielding results that do not
Quite, yeah.
quite come up to those of the preceding one.
Can you just read a bit louder so that Estelle in the back can hear you?
Lest I think, consider of an entirely satisfactory nature. We have had, as is usual in a business such as ours, our anxieties and troubles, but we have managed to overcome these, and the result of our efforts is placed in your hands today.
Like, just a little bit louder so we can
Sorry.
pretend you're as loud as I am. Because I know I'm probably annoying. But I want everybody to hear, and we're taping this, so the online students need to hear you, and I don't think they'll hear you through the mic.
I spoke at our last meeting of
Extraordinary?
the extraordinary slump in wool prices and the consequent dislocations of our financial machinery. We will, this year,
No, it's well,
Well,
comma,
okay, sorry. Well, this year, we have been spared all that.
okay, still a little bit louder.
All right. Wool has sold on the whole,
Well, on the whole.
I'm sorry, well, on the whole, and at payable prices to growers. And I hope that this state of affairs will continue, although I am loath to assume the role of prophet. There are people who consider that there are several adverse factors that may militate against us. Exchange rates, too, have shown no wild fluctuations, so that the disabilities under which we have labored during the past few years now disappeared.
Have now disappeared.
Now disappeared, sorry. To the advantage of the United States, trade generally. You will recall I previously mentioned we were considering various methods of increased capital, but
Of increased capital,
but
but
no future steps have been taken.
no further.
Further.
Great. Listen, I think you've got the rhythm going. You just need to speed it up a little bit. And of course, I think we all wanted you to read a bit louder. But that's okay. I think that's a great attempt. I like this because you're all giving it some effort today, okay? And I know that you're all going to do better next week. I'm really pleased. I'm glad we've got this time together. Okay, Regina. Huh? You're not reading today? Oh, you're not ready. Okay. Yvonne, you want to read? Okay, but we need to hear you because I can't hear you. I know you always speak low. But we've got this taped, and I think the online students would like to hear how well you do. Okay, go ahead.